Edward, and I want to introduce you to my Lyvennet flock of Manx Loaghtans sheep. I'm based here in the north of Cumbria, just about 20 miles from the Scottish border, and this field here is containing my 8 ewes that lambed this year and their 14 lambs. We had 10 that were ram lambs and 4 that were gimmers. For the first time in my 4 years of lambing, I ended up with a bottle-fed lamb. Damson and I were both beginners at this bottle-feeding lark, but we seemed to get the hang of it and she survived very well. What I did was create extra space so that there was a bit of outdoor sunshine and grazing using the sheep hurdles, and I kept her mum in an adjacent section with the other lamb so that Damson at least got to know who her mum and her twin were, and that worked. And here's Damson, exactly 3 months old today. My flock name is Lyvennet, chosen because the river Lyvennet runs through our land just to the left of this picture. The river frequently floods, but thankfully the grazing land is high above the river, so my livestock aren't at risk at times like that. I've been keeping sheep since 2015. I chose Manx Loaghtans as I wanted a rare breed, ideally a primitive, being smaller and less prone to health issues, but one with a lovely fleece. Manx Loaghtans can grow an amazingly soft fleece with no kemp, no cotting, so far for me anyway, and a fabulous unusual colour. I've been producing yarn from native breeds for many years now and have the thrill of some yarns being created using fleece from my very own sheep. My first 3 ewes were purchased at a local rare breed auction with help from friends in the RBST Cumbria support group, and a further 4 ewes were bought from a flock in Yorkshire the same year. I have just under 3 acres for grazing, which is divided into 3 paddocks. I don't have a preference for either 2 or 4-horned Loaghtans, as both are really attractive, but I seem to have ended up with the majority being 2-horned, despite using a 4-horned ram one year. I'm very fortunate to have this field shelter in my middle field, and it's been useful in different ways. Very occasionally when I've had an ill sheep that needs special treatment, I can put her in here. Sheep hurdles mean I can give a bit of grazing on the outside, but I actually, when my sheep have lambed, which they do out in the field, I just put them in here for about 24 hours, if that, just to double check that all the bonding's happened properly. So it really is fabulous. They don't use it much in the bad weather, but we do bad weather quite well here in Cumbria. They might use some of it as shelter if the snow's coming from the west. They might be more at the side or at the front here, but they don't go in it very often for bad weather. They just seem to be happy enough under a hedge or whatever. And here's another look back at exactly 3 months ago. This is Amelia, lambing out in the field, as I've explained. Amelia was the very first lamb in my Lyvennet flock, so she is rather special. She's a brilliant mum, which is no surprise. Her own mum, Meg, is also an excellent mum and still producing twins for me. I always wait until the lambs have been thoroughly cleaned and are dry before moving them and their mum into the field shelter. It's always a challenge to find an unrelated tup for my ewes. Ideally, I want one that's not too far away, but that's easier said than done. I simply don't have the space to keep several tups, and my one attempt at keeping a single tup with a wether for company wasn't successful. All adults were clipped at the end of May this year, which is earlier than usual for me, but this was to reduce the risk of overheating in the hot weather we were experiencing, and therefore potential fly strike. This is Caesar, my 2-year-old wether, and he's a particular favourite. I don't routinely medicate my flock apart from their annual Heptavac P+. I do have fecal egg counts done periodically, and unfortunately this has just come back with a high count, necessitating worming. So you might see several of them with red dots on the back of their neck, as that was my way of seeing which ones have been done and which weren't. I'm lucky I've got really good vets and they come up with heaps of excellent advice. I don't have a dog, so my sheep are gathered with a bucket of coarse mix. Even in the summer, I do it a couple of times a week just to keep them used to the thrill of the feed and make them still want to come and be near me. I did have a bit of a problem with grazing earlier this year because of the very dry spring, but thankfully the rains have brought the grass on. I don't have enough space to grow hay. I did try it a couple of years and it just didn't produce very much at all. So now I buy in small bales of haylage ready for the winter. And here we have Francesca, who's my old girl. She's got no teeth left. She's 11 years old, and so I do come in and preferentially feed her when I can. And yeah, she's just an absolute gem, but she's doing very well. Now the grass is longer, she can pull it up and eat quite well, really. So, so we're doing fine. So yes, this is my odds and sods field, but still all very, very special. As a footnote, this video has been made using several different episodes filming my sheep. Most were filmed on the 12th of July when my lambs were 2 to 3 months old, though lambing was filmed in April. Being prone to sound interference, thanks to the Cumbrian winds today, quite a bit of this video has required a commentary, just so you can hear what I'm saying. Thanks, bye!